Um, I'm going to read you something he wrote. I'm not going to read his whole statement. I paint to grow. I paint to be surprised. I paint in an attempt to seduce the unknown, to wish it into being and freeze that fleeting glimpse in time. This unknown, once it's conjured, it's still ambiguous by mysteriously very familiar, very close to me. I love oil paint. I love the way it can shine. I love the way it's slick, slides against itself. I love the wordiness, wordlessness, mysterious meaning of color. I love the color in infinite. Like music, I love that it can be always in motion. I love that it can be vibrant. I am not interested in the static. I don't want to play with ideas. I want the flow. I want the juice. I want the passion. I want to live in the question. So there you go. Here's another really long list CVs, but it's interesting because we just met. But he's shown he was in a show Ear to the Ground that was at Julie Torres's gallery, who I know from Bushwick, and a friend of mine was in that show. He's shown at Cheryl Neidhart and Tom Gowan's gallery Transcender, also in Brooklyn. And he's had some solo shows in Philadelphia, Servio Antonio da Vinci Fellowship. So I'm not going to read everybody's CV, but you can see he's pretty accomplished. So if we could let Robert take over there. So.
Sure. Well, thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it turns out I know like aside from you, about 4 other people on this call. So it's nice to see some of you guys. Mostly from New York and different things. So as far as source material, my paintings are not from any visual source and never have been. So it's a process. It's all about, making a mark, looking, call and response, waiting for the painting to tell me or to suggest something. And it evolves over a time until some kind of an image, until it doesn't ask me any more questions, until it feels emotionally right. And then much more recently, I mean, in the last 10 years or so, I've started to think about formal things because I've been so involved with the community and other people and looking at a tremendous amount of work. So I think that that not other kind of things happen where, I make formal choices just because they present themselves as well. But as far as what the images are and what somebody's making, let me see who it is. Somebody's making some real noise out there. Whose mic is not muted? Anyway, that seemed to have stopped. So it turns out I can't. It's always a question of when to stop, because I don't want to overwork things. I want them to be ambiguous. You can just cycle through slides at will. This is a little more, sounds a little bit almost, I think, over the edge of not as ambiguous as I want it to be, but that's what it was said. That's what happened. They're mostly about, the only thing I could say about them that joins everything I've done since I started painting is that once the image sort of stops its talking to me, once the conversation stops, and I look at all the various images, they all have to do with our particular unique human condition, which to me, at least the way I see myself and other people, is that we human beings have our feet on the ground, and we also know that there's something greater, but we don't we don't know what it is, and we know that we're not all there is, but we also have lives to live, and we have to work every day, and we have families and, you know, neuroses and ordinary stuff, but we also know that we're only seeing a very, very small part of what there is, which is a kind of an interesting position to be in, kind of like purgatory, kind of like we're here to go one way or the other, either up or down or both ways at the same time, which is what we do. So the only thing I can see common about the many pictures that I've made is that they do have to do with that being suspended between the stars and the earth. Each one, of course, has much more. When I finish with it, I do kind of have my own emotional reaction to it. And I then make up stories, and they could be one of many. I do it because some people like to see that. It makes a difference to me what people think. And so it makes it easier to talk. I mean, I could give you a narrative, but the narrative is really not the important thing. It's the process and the fact that I don't know what's going to happen, and it's just like comforting to know that there's something I can talk to out there that gives me information that I don't have, but it also could be something from our collective unconscious that I'm channeling, but it's very human, it's very grounded in its own way, and it's very also aspirational. The paintings are all on either canvas or board or Yupo. To give you an idea, these all have been done in the last 2 or 3 months. To give you an idea of possibly how to look at something if you don't have a way in, the way that this particular piece that's on the screen came to me after, I mean, it didn't come to me. The way it appeared after it was finished was like somebody who's having a tough time. And the name of the piece, I named it No, Never Alone, which is the name of a gospel song. And it's kind of like a guardian angel, like that great movie Wings of Desire, if anybody's seen that, where there are people that are not touching or forces that are not touching us, but see us in our struggle. That's how this makes me feel, but it could be something else. And the last thing I'll say is that I did create a site called writewhatyouSee.art. And the aim of the site, it has other people's work on it. And the aim of the site is that you go and you look at somebody's painting. The only thing up there is the name of the person who did it. And and there's lots of little comments that people add, what they see, what their title might be, and one of them is the title the artist gave, but it's not designated. So the idea is to have that kind of sharing of a common experience of being human. So that's what I do. End of story. Thank you, Gary.